Here we are on part 2 of negotiating a real estate deal, tips and tricks, and at the end we'll show you some stuff that Herbie might try to rip you off on. This might actually go to 3 parts. It's turning out to be pretty in-depth here. But the main point of this is saving you some cash and or making you the most cash. And we'll go from here. All right, into the slides. So in the last video, we talked about contacting the seller after you looked at the property. And the property's right here that we looked at. We'll come back to that in a moment. You do all this stuff here. We went over this in the last video. I just want to kind of start it off here to give you some context if this is the first one you're watching. We'll go ahead and go to the next slide that we should actually be on. So now that we've looked at the property, we've contacted the seller or the seller's realtor. We're going to review all the info. That other realtor should have sent us additional pictures. Your realtor should have sent you additional pictures, or you should have taken additional pictures at this point. You want to kind of go through those with a fine-tooth comb and check out and see if there's any little stuff in there that you missed when you were looking at it before. Check out the ceilings, check out the walls, check out the flooring. Make sure everything all looks good. If you see anything out of ordinary, investigate a little bit more. You know, you might notice that in some of your pictures, there's some 2-prong outlets instead of 3-prong. That means that those would be ungrounded, and you're probably going to want to go ahead and put in some grounded outlets at your own expense. The other thing you can do, and we'll talk about it later, is negotiate any repairs that you notice into a purchase agreement and or repair request after your inspection addendum. So the other thing to look at in the pictures, is there anything said or shown that would complicate the sale? So all kinds of little stuff can come up. You know, you might notice that there's a bunch of roots growing into the foundation and up into the living room when you go out there and actually visit the property. You might notice that there's some holes somewhere. You might notice there's leaks. Anything like that that could complicate the sale and possibly get you to where you're not going to be able to collect rent right away after closing. Keep that stuff in mind. On this house, one thing that we looked at was whether there's a garage or not. I still have no idea if there's a garage. If there isn't, that could end up being a problem. And actually, on this property, I don't think there is. So then the next thing is to refine your rent estimate. Once you've seen anything that complicates the sale or any little things in the house that can detract from the rent, and what we're going to do is switch over to our Zillow view and check out more rentals in the area. So we bring Zillow up here. Our house was right in here. And you see we got $1,500 right here for a 3-bed, 2.5 bath. Looks like a, what you call there, duplex. That's nice. Has a 1-car garage. Looks really nice. Good pictures inside. So yeah, I'd say in this area, they probably definitely deserve $1,500 per month. It's a little weird right there, but you know, hey, some people like sparkler lights. Not sure what they're doing with that one, but hey, this looks like a new build possibly. This owner could have bought like a brand new building and planned on putting a tenant in here right away. Okay, so for $1,500 you get that. For $1,200, what do we get? For $1,200 we get a nice, I would call this an English style house. No pictures of that one, but you know, it's $1,250. Looks pretty nice there. Decent grass. Okay, so with our house also looked nice. It was a little bit less square footage. We're really going to need to get $1,200 a month out of this house that we're looking at to meet our number and make some cash off of the property. For $1,300 a month, let's check this one out. Okay, nice brick house, bigger than we have, 3-bed, 2-bath, nice counters, nice flooring. Yeah, I don't know about that bathroom. That's very pink. And no, oh, there's bathtub. Okay, so you see how they have a shower and a bathtub? You want to make sure that you have a bathtub in your rentals at the minimum. This person probably knows that they can keep this shower. It's nice, but they definitely need this bathtub. And it has a little shower bar right here. Comes with a shower bar. You want to put one of those in so your tenant's not going back and forth with one of those compression shower bars. These are about $50-$60 at the hardware store for a decent one. And they look really good in your rental. Actually, really attractive thing to have in there. Okay, yeah, so for $1,300 a month, they get a pretty good deal here with 2 bathrooms. We're going to need a second bathroom in our house. I've pretty much decided that at this point. Okay, so that's kind of some comps in the area. For $9.95, they're getting 3-bed, 1-bath, a little bit smaller, a little bit not as good. So yeah, we're gonna need that extra bathroom. That'll definitely get us that $1,200 a month. This one has air in the window here. Pull that up. I got your air in the window here. Ours is going to have central air, so that's an extra $50 to $100 a month. Yeah, we should be able to get $1,200 a month out of ours based on these comps. Okay, let's go back to our slide. So reviewing the info and refining our rent estimate should have the ability to get $1,200 a month out of this house. I don't know about $1,300 in the area. Seems a little high to me. You can go through and check that out a little bit more in depth in your area just to get it a little more refined. Check out more comps and rentals. We don't have time for that in this video. If it was me purchasing that house, I would go ahead and review all of those comps. But it is, like I said, a pain in the rear for me to edit that down to where it's usable. So we're only going to look at 3 or 4 there, like we just did. Okay, yeah, so that's what you do here after you talk to their realtor and get all that additional info. Make sure you do all of this. If you just kind of skip to putting in an offer, you're going to get stuck sometimes, and it's not going to be good. You're not going to be able to get the rent you want out of it, and there's going to be a lot more work to put into the house than you really want to look at. One thing I noticed on that house that might complicate the sale, usually be something like a pool. But on this house, they had, this is it right here. We're just going back to our old video. They had this outhouse slash shed in the back with this window looking right into it. Not sure why they put that there. It's kind of strange. I don't know if a tenant would really mind, but I did see right here that they have central air. We can, central air unit right there. That's nice. Comes with a little hose thing, hopefully. There's a vent for hopefully a furnace vent down there. Maybe the furnace is in the crawl space. Not really sure why there's a vent in the crawl. Yeah, if the furnace is in the crawl, that's going to be kind of strange too to work on. Yeah, so check that out. Check out where the furnace is placed in this house. If I were to buy it, I'd want to make sure where that furnace was. And then figure out what to kind of do with this thing. Maybe move that back a couple feet. But they did say it has electrical and stuff ran to the shed, so that could maybe not be movable. Don't really know, but I'm not sure why they would block that window with it. So we got a little complication here. We do have a plus that has a big old back porch on it. That's real nice. You probably be cleaning that up a little bit when you go to rent the home. But yeah, curb appeal here. Looks good. Got these nice trees. See, these aren't full growth trees. They are still getting some crap on their roof here. You're going to want to go ahead and put in that gutter stuff that I talked about in a previous video. You just go down to the Home Depot. It's about $6 for 3 or 4 feet of it. You probably need about 15 sections for this house. So you're looking at like maybe, I don't know, $100, $120 to put gutter guards on this house. And that is gutter stuff available at almost every Home Depot. They don't sponsor me, and maybe they will one day because everybody buys their stuff when I say it. But they don't now, so I just recommend it because it's really good. Okay, so we'll go back here. So that's the complications I saw with that. Nothing looked really too bad. Didn't see any deal killers. Don't know where we'd put that extra bathroom, and honestly, it'd probably be a half bath in this house. We'd find a place to put in a little bathroom with some plumbing and go from there. Okay. So after you've done all that, you're going to go ahead and follow up with the seller or the seller's realtor. Usually you'd have your own realtor maybe get involved at this point. Definitely recommend getting a buyer's agent. We'll talk about that a little bit more when we're negotiating on the house. What we want to do is have our realtor get involved and make sure that everything's proper with any paperwork we're going to start putting together. But you're going to follow up with that seller, reassure them that you're serious if you do, in fact, or if I did, in fact, want to purchase this house. I would go ahead and let them know, yeah, it looks really good over there. Took a look at it, took a look at all these pictures. I can't believe they kept it in such good condition, compliments. They're selling at a really good time. They're going to get, I imagine they'll get a really good price out of it here. So we talked before, Mr. and Mrs. Realtor, how flexible are they on that price? I'd love to put in an offer and, see what they say at this point. See if they come out and say, oh, they're flexible, 202 days on the market, blah, 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 or They say, oh, they're really firm at that price. Say, okay, great. And then you take that info that you got and you start discussing an offer with them. So how you want to approach that, you want to be like, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Realtor, I want to go ahead and put in an offer on this property. It would be great if we could come in, 3-bed, 1-bath. I got to put in that extra bathroom like I mentioned before. I could probably do like $115,000 on this house. What are you thinking on that? Throw a price out there. See what they say. If they say, well, I think if you put that in writing, it might be accepted. Or they might say, absolutely not, it's not going to work. Or they might say, yeah, if you put it in writing, that will be accepted. So they'll say one of those things. What you want to try to do is get a verbal agreement from the realtor or the seller on what price they'll accept. And we're not really negotiating at this point. We're just trying to get an offer in there. And we want to find out the kind of the lowest price, not necessarily the lowest price they're going to accept, because we're actually going to negotiate a little later on. Whatever price they accept, though, you want to make sure it fits your numbers now. So if we want to rent that house for $1,200 per month, we need to get that house for $115,000 because we're going to spend probably $5,000 putting a new half bathroom in there, which is fine. Then we have, $120 total for the house. That meets our 1% rent to value ratio. And you never know, it might not cost that much to put in a new half bath. Might only cost $3,000. Might only cost $2,000. But it definitely probably shouldn't cost more than $5,000. If it costs more than $5,000, you might be doing something wrong there. Or, it could be like $7,000 for a half bath. You might want to take a look and make sure your vanity's not like $500 and your toilet's not $500, because really you're only putting like, $400 or $500 worth of actual parts into this and spending $5,000 somehow. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of up to you there. Maybe you're going to do some nicer stuff. Maybe you got to put in some walls and it gets up over to $1,000 in actual parts and stuff. The rest of that's just all labor. So make sure your contractor's like not ripping you off on that if it's over $5,000 for a half bath. Anyway, so we get a verbal agreement from them that they'll take $115,000 and we put that purchase agreement in. We're going to contact our realtor and say, hey, we need to put together a purchase agreement for $115,000 for this house on blah, blah, blah avenue. And they're going to go ahead and accept it. And your realtor is going to look at you like, how do you know that? And you're going to be like, well, because I already talked to them about it. They said they were good with that. And then your realtor's like, okay, great. This is really easy for me. I'm about to get 3% for putting together, a purchase agreement. So that makes your realtor absolutely love you. Remember, they're people too. They want to make some money on this deal. And, you can do the negotiations, and that takes a lot of work out of the realtor's hands. That realtor's probably going to be driving back and forth for you here anyway. So keep that in mind. You're not just paying them 3% to put together a purchase agreement. All right, next slide. So we're going to make this probably the last slide for this part of the video. Otherwise, we're going to, again, end up going way too long on it. So what you're going to do, you're going to go ahead and get your purchase agreement together, submit it over to the seller or the seller's realtor. Once you complete that purchase agreement, make sure that you mark all of the appliances you want on this house. We noticed inside, let's see if we can scroll to a picture of it here. The kitchen, right here. So we have the kitchen here. We see it as a black stove range and a dishwasher and washer and dryer. Check that out. It's got a washer and dryer in it, and then it has a refrigerator right here. What we want to do on the purchase agreement is mark that we want all of this stuff to stay. Okay. Oh, there's a little crappy microwave right there. Looks like it's on top of a little cabinet. Who cares about that? That's like probably $100 or less. But you can just mark that you want the microwave to stay as well. Probably best to put one up here. I don't know if you can do that or not. If there's a vent up here, I don't know if there is. You should know, looks like there's a vent, but don't know if that goes through the roof. That goes through the roof, you pop a microwave in there. Probably cost you $300 or $400 to do that with a matching similar color microwave. That would be really good for a tenant and probably help increase the rent, make this kitchen look a lot better. On a side note, the other thing I'd recommend doing, if you have your washer and dryer like this, It's kind of the style now. What you do, and it's not super expensive, you put in a cabinet here, not a cabinet, but like a little slider door wall to split this off from the kitchen. You don't want to be sitting here at your eat-in kitchen and watching your clothes spin around so you get dizzy and, then your dinner comes back up. So you go ahead and cover that up. It also helps with some of the noise from the washer and dryer and makes the kitchen look a lot more presentable. I make sure that my washer and dryer are either in a laundry room in all of my homes or that they're covered or put in a little closet thing that fits a washer and dryer. Looks really good and really helps rent the property. So anyway, we're going to select on that purchase agreement, whether we talked with them or not, that we want all of these appliances. Okay, fixtures. So, if anything's mentioned during this whole process that the seller wants to take this or that with them, you can absolutely say no once they've accepted the purchase agreement. A little story, I had a house probably years ago where the seller wanted the light fixtures out of the garage. They're those old tube style fluorescent light fixtures. And he, for some reason, thought that they were like a super big value. Yeah, and that kind of screwed me because he went ahead and took those and just left all the wires hanging out from all the fixtures. So now I, number one, don't have lighting in my garage. And I have a bunch of bare exposed wires that have power running to them. Yeah, I was a little pissed about that one. So if they say they want to take any fixtures out of the house, my recommendation and what I do now is tell them, no, that's not going to work for me. If you want a fixture, you can have that professionally removed by an electrician. That'll probably cost you about $200 or $300, which would be the price of going to buy a new one. So go ahead and buy a new one, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Okay, so fees within your purchase agreement. There's different fees to discuss, okay? And you may want to make a list of this. I don't know if you have a pen or not. You can always re-watch this. It's good for the YouTube algos. It'll bring more people to the page. There's all kinds of fees when you go in to buy a house, right? So you got, you got a home inspections cost you $300-400. You got, gas back and forth. Main thing is you have your realtor. Now, it's standard in the industry for the seller to pay for the buyer's agent. So there's different things that can happen there. There's different percentages that they could be willing to pay. Standard is 3% and then sometimes 2% if you go over a certain amount on the property. So overall, they're paying, sometimes 3%. Sometimes the seller's paying 3.5% or 2.5%, not 3.5%. I don't think 3.5% is very common, but 2.5% overall on the price of that property for your realtor. What you want to do is make sure you note on your purchase agreement that your realtor is getting paid 3%. If you can do that, it'll make your realtor super happy. Pretty much if it goes to where property value is only going to pay them 2%, that's less money in their pocket. Go ahead and put that at 3%. You're not paying it anyway. It gives you something to negotiate later on. Your realtor will understand if the property is $150,000, they only want to pay 2% for the home. Your realtor is going to understand that it's got to come down later on, but we can always modify this. So other fees, closing costs. What you want to put in the purchase agreement is that your seller there is going to pay you 3% for closing costs. Now, if you know anything about real estate, you'll know that on federally backed mortgage, we should be getting a 30-year fixed rate mortgage that'll be backed by Fannie Mae. Hopefully we get a Fannie loan because then we can deed our property around. What you'll notice is that I said 3% on that. So a lot of people don't know. Most realtors, in fact, don't know. But if you put 3% in there, then they're going to come back when you try to get that loan and say, hey, we can only do 2% towards your closing costs from the seller. So at this point, you're maybe a week into having this purchase agreement accepted, and that seller is going to freak out a little bit because the deal's going to fall apart. So you go ahead and you say, well, hey, Mr. Seller, if you take an extra percent off of the price of the house, then we're good to go. So on that $115,000 house, what we're going to want the seller to do is go ahead and lower the price to $113,500. That saves you about $300 on 20% down payment there. Feel free to go ahead and give your realtor, I don't know, $100 of that at the end of it. I try to hook my realtors up, give them a little extra cash afterward if there's any left over once I've hit my number. And then like I said, I also use my realtor to go ahead and show tenants through the house. And then I give that realtor 1/2 month's rent to do that. Usually it's pretty easy. The realtor's over there maybe 2 or 3 or 4 times for a couple hours at a time. And they get a nice check for, I don't know, like $600 or $800, maybe a little bit more sometimes. Yeah, and they love that because it's just, like a check. Eventually you have to go over and 1099 them and all that, but whatever, it's still extra money for them. So what other fees would there be? So there's like taxes and stuff. A lot of times you got to pay that, but sometimes repairs, right? So that seller can't really give you like 10 grand cash at closing for repairs. You really have to take that off the price of the house. Otherwise, you can't get the 30-year fixed rate federally backed loan. Most lenders will tell you that, hey, that seller can only give you blah, blah, blah back, whatever amount it would be. And you'll have to lower the price of the house at that point. Well, me personally, I like cash back at closing because it lowers the overall cash I have to put into the deal. You see what I'm saying? So on this house, if we get 2% cash back at closing, that's $3,000 or right about $3,000, depending where the price ends up, right? So if I can get $3,000 cash back at closing, well, think about how much I'm putting into the deal. At 20%, that's $30,000 that I'm putting into that, plus closing costs, which are usually 2%. So another $3,000, so 33 grand I'm putting into this house. If I negotiate 2% back for closing costs, boom, that drops me to $30,000 for total cash into the deal. Saves me right around 10% on total cash that I'm putting into the deal. That saves me some cash so I can go out and buy another house later on instead of dumping it into this one. So that's one reason to negotiate these fees. The other thing you can do if a repair comes up and you're pretty close to closing there, had a house that needed a roof put on it and the seller refused to pay for an entire new roof, but the seller was like, hey, I'll go ahead and give your contractor a $5,000 check at closing because I can't pay you $5,000, but they can give that contractor $5,000 towards the repair of the roof. And when that contractor goes out there and repairs that roof, they just send you the rest of the bill. So that new roof that was like 7 grand or 8 grand actually, because we did the garage as well, I ended up paying $6,500 for. My total out of pocket was $1,500. So I had a $5,000 credit on that contractor from the seller. So check that out. That's a good way to save some cash going into a deal. So anyway, talking about the rest of these fees here, look through the other fees that you may have. So you have other fees. You have fee for the title officer. You've got all this stuff that you're going to have to pay. Make sure your realtor gets paid. Ask that realtor, hey, who do you recommend using for a loan officer, for a title officer, for whatever, and use that person. If your realtor works well with somebody, just use that person. Who cares if it costs you an extra $100 more? You're doing what your realtor wants, and it's going to take some work off his or her plate. They're going to be able to go back and forth with you quicker, and you never know. In the end, that loan may come up with a problem, and your realtor going back and forth with their referral there might get that loan to go through. This happens all the time. Okay, so other items. So as far as fees go, you want to write all that into the purchase agreement. Who's paying for what? A lot of times they'll completely miss this. I've had sellers completely miss the extra terms that were on the deal. So you may want to point that out to the seller that there's extra terms on page 2 or extra terms in section 6, whatever. Make sure that they see those if you want them to. If they don't see them and they don't review the contract, they just sign it. It's not really a problem, is it? So go ahead and make sure they understand that you want this and this and that paid for. And they should go ahead and agree to that because you know what? You're paying them what they actually wanted for that house. After talking to them, you're paying them the $115,000 in this case that they actually wanted. And you're saving them the negotiation process, or so they think. Okay, other items. So on your purchase agreement, there's a little section where you can write in notes. You're gonna go ahead and type in or write in some notes on that purchase agreement. Anything else you want, like, hey, I want that yard debris cleaned up before I purchase it. Hey, I want the roof cleaned off. Hey, I want those gutters cleaned. Whatever you want, you write it in there to begin with so that they understand that's going on. We'll negotiate the rest of this later on after our inspection comes back. You get to do an inspection addendum later on, and you can still back out of this deal as long as you're within your inspection period. Okay, so that'll do it for this. If you have questions on any of this or anything that you think I missed, go ahead and link it in the comments. I'll go ahead and answer that for you. But, you know, hey, we're going to go ahead and submit the offer here. I mean, I'm not really submitting it because I don't want that house. But, you know, we would go ahead and submit the offer here. It would get accepted by the seller because it's already pre-negotiated. And then we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. That'll do it for part 2 of negotiating a real estate deal. I guess we'll get to Herbie in the next video. There's a lot of things you'll have to watch out for. Check out the part 3 of this video. We'll go through all of the pitfalls that, you know, Happy Herbie's going to go ahead and try to take advantage of you on. Herbie over here wants your money when you're buying his house. And we're going to try to keep this right here in our pocket. So that'll be on part 3. Thanks for watching this one, everybody, and y'all hang in there.